Good morning, everyone. I'm Julie Livingston, back for another episode of my semi-weekly podcast, PR Patter, where you'll hear great conversations about thought leadership and public relations and marketing. And if you like what you see, I hope you'll visit my website at wantleverage.com. We also have a free tip sheet on maximizing your use of LinkedIn, which is a great platform for thought leadership these days. I'd like to introduce my guest. She's been on the show before, and I'm delighted to have her back. Carrie Maselli is a leadership development expert and speaker with Project Violet, a learning and development consultancy. Before shifting into learning and development, Carrie spent years in sales leadership. And I love this transition that you made, and I want you to talk about that later, where she learned how to uncover real needs, craft compelling messages, and connect with people in a way that builds trust. With more than 20 years of experience leading talent strategies and coaching leaders at all levels, she brings a practical, human centered approach to helping people grow. So, welcome, Carrie. Welcome back, Carrie.
Thank you, Julie. It's great to see you.
So, tell us a little bit about your backstory and then tell us about Project Violet and what you're doing now.
Yeah. And I just thought of something too that I want to share or add to the story because I'm not sure that I ever shared it with you, but and I was thinking about this the other day when I was chatting with someone who was graduating college this May, this month. And I was thinking about how when I was in college, I used to say to myself that I wanted to teach adults. And I had no idea what that meant other than
Wow.
I had one perspective, and that was like college professors, right? I was in college and I had professors and I thought I want to teach adults, and I really didn't know anything beyond that, and I didn't really know if I wanted to be a college professor either. I just kept saying I want to teach adults. And then fast forward, so as you mentioned, I spent 17 years of the first 17 years of my career in sales leadership, right? So I was a sales rep selling, you name it, I was selling it back then, and then transitioned to sales leadership. Was happy in that role. I think you asked me, to tell that story. I think it's a really fun one that I was really happy in my sales director role. I loved what I was doing. I liked sales. I liked leading my team to quota, to meeting quota. And then I got a phone call from our company president at the time that said, hey, this role for the director of learning and development is open, and I'd like you to consider it. And I thought, what? Why would I do that? I'm happy over here. And he said, I just think you're well suited for it. And it's really something I want you to think about. And I thought, well, okay. And so I asked him to give me a little bit of time. And I'll tell you what, Julie, I hung up the phone with him and I couldn't stop thinking about it. I told my husband, I told my dad, because my dad was a career sales guy. And I thought, was this crazy? Like, what am I doing? But I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I knew enough about myself to know that if it was something that was there, in my brain,
Sure.
on my mind, on my heart, I needed to pursue it. I figured I could always go back to sales, right? If it didn't work out. And so I took that role. That was 10 years ago. And ever since then have been working I took that role and worked for 3 years for that company, and then have been in consulting since 2019, building learning programs for clients.
That's amazing.
And so I teach adults. That's the crazy part, right? Like,
right. It all circles back.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So tell us about Project Violet.
So Project Violet was born of years of talking with my business partners. I have two, Daniel and Jennifer, and we talked for years about what might we do, together, because we knew that we liked working together, and we knew that we could do something where our expertise all complemented one another. And so Project Violet it's a consultancy, as you mentioned. So we help clients build learning programs. We build and even execute for clients learning programs to develop their people. So regardless of what the content or the subject is, we can assist in that. We do a lot of leadership development, as you mentioned. That is something that comes up quite a bit. We help companies and their people navigate change. We are change certified or ProSci certified change practitioners. And we also do a lot of work around AI adoption. So helping companies at all sizes help their people scale AI solutions
That's
throughout.
so critical right now. My God.
Oh,
Everything is AI.
Everybody's talking about it. Everybody asks about it. And it's really that 0 to 1 that becomes really tricky. So we have the ability, Julie, to help even a single person understand AI and how to really adopt it into their own day to day and really, create efficiencies. But then also like Daniel, my partner, has helped organizations globally, adopt and scale AI solutions.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think you've had such an interesting career trajectory. I love that you started in sales and went into this other area.
Yeah.
So you spent years in sales leadership. How does thought leadership content build relationships even before the sale?
Well, and I think I was so happy when you asked me to talk about this specific topic with you. I mean, obviously you're strategic about this because it just feels like it's natural, to me in terms of my background and what it is that I, have been doing. And I think that when you can, and I must say, Julie, as well, that you are the person that really got me thinking about thought leadership and sharing it regularly. By the way, I want to just shout that out. You were incredible years ago when we first met and worked together, that you really helped me understand my voice and create like a muscle memory, right? Or like a habit around sharing what I thought. So thank you to you for that. But I think, and when you talk about competitive advantage, I mean, there's so much that goes into, again, I'm pretty, can you, yeah. Okay. Sorry. I think that thought leadership shows people like how you think. You get really clear about what you want to talk about. You're not just like, it's not what you think about things. I think that you can reduce uncertainty about who you are and how you approach problems or situations. I think that people can see what you value, right? Even meet you. They can get in touch with what's important to you and how, as I mentioned, how you approach things.
I think that's so critical because people have a lot of choices these days as to who they work with. And they want to work with people they like and trust. And so I think if you're putting thought leadership out into the world in terms of written content or spoken, verbal content, they really can get a sense of who you are. And as you say, how you think and how you approach things. I think that's absolutely critical. What do you think the benefits are of thought leadership for consultants like you and Project Violet?
As you just said, and I think this is such a critical piece of it, is that, sales in general, or any one of us in business, by the way, and I know you believe this, Julie, we're all selling something, whether it's ourselves and our expertise, right? Yeah. Or our employment, whatever it is. We're not all maybe necessarily salespeople, but we are selling ourselves. And I think, and I know that that's what you say, about thought leadership as well. And I think, as you mentioned, it's all about relationships. It is not transactional, nor should it be. And so I think when you can give someone like repeated exposure to you and you show up, but do you ever see, I know you see, Julie, people who pop on to LinkedIn because they've just lost their job potentially, or they're looking for a new job, and they'll say, oh, I know I've been quiet, love to connect with people, reach out, right?
Yeah, but it's so much easier to help that person if they were active beforehand.
That's right. Like, I just think my advice to anyone, and I don't know if anyone's asking, but it's like, stay connected, like cultivate relationships, even if you're happy in your job. You never know what tomorrow is going to bring. And this notion of, like, oh, hey, I haven't talked to any of you in 20 years, but I'm looking for a job now. Can you help me? And, no shade to people. They're doing their best. But like, I think, when you're not prioritizing connection and reaching out to people with no agenda, but just like keeping, I like to collect people. I say that in the most loving way. Like, I connect with people regularly and have for over 20 years. And I think it's because I prioritize it. And so when it comes to building something like my business, I have a pipeline of people, Julie, that have come to me because I've been in touch with them for years, right? Not because I'm all of a sudden saying, I started Project Violet please work with me, right? Like I would have had to start a decade ago or more, to build the trust and the familiarity, right? I think that thought leadership really does create this familiarity in you as well. Like you said, people buy from or work with people who they know and trust. And if you are out there and allowing people to opt into you, before they even talk to you in some cases, I think that's what's really going to drive that connection. They feel like they know you because they've been listening and reading, what you say or what you think.
That's exactly what one of my clients who I did thought leadership for on LinkedIn specifically, when she's a very high up senior vice president of Fortune 50 company.
Yeah.
So people really didn't know her. She was overseeing this huge field force. But once she would go out in the field after the LinkedIn program started, people would come up to her and say, I feel like I know you, which was huge.
It's huge. And, I don't know if I told you this story either, but I had someone who I worked with at my last role who we didn't really work together, but we knew each other. We had been in touch a couple of times over a few years. I mean, nothing really major where we had a deep connection on any level, but just like a friendly collaborative, when we had to. And I've always been active because of your encouraging, on LinkedIn in terms of sharing my thoughts on leadership, especially because it's something that I am deeply passionate about. And I met with this gentleman a few months after I was laid off from my last role. And he said to me, Carrie, he was excited for me, right? And we were talking about what was next. Yeah. And he said, he's like, I know you, somewhat, over the years, I've known you for a little while. And he said, and I read what you write about. And he said, it never really seemed like there was alignment between you and leadership of that other company. Like even this guy who barely knew me
really
said, I just could see it. I could sense it in the way that you approach leadership in the world and problem solving and the way that they do. And I felt so seen in that moment because
that's incredible.
But isn't that exactly like an example of what we're talking about, right? People feel like they know me, they can sense who I am. And then they can discern like, oh, wow, that's maybe a disconnect for her, in terms of what
that's how perceptive.
I know. And you and I know, because I've talked to you as a friend, that was the truth, right? Like
yes, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Wow. Yeah. That's incredible. So that's really a way that thought leadership establishes trust. Even before you you even get to know somebody, really, if they're seeing you, especially LinkedIn, they're saying now that LinkedIn is the top thought leadership platform, that people who are seeing that kind of content on LinkedIn are finding new contacts and connections as a result. And that especially people who are in charge of hiring. So if you're not on LinkedIn, you need to be. Absolutely. So one of the things that I've learned over the years in coaching people how to use thought leadership, and I think we did this when we were working together as well, is the way you can define current problems and issues through developing the content, the thought leadership content. You're really showing people in that way, you're really showing people that, number one, you kind of know what's going on, the landscape, right? And then you're identifying it and then offering solutions.
I think that's the key. Yeah, I think that's the key. And I'd like to say too. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to speak over you there. I think that to say that thought leadership isn't going to be as successful, or at least in my opinion, it's not going to be as successful if you're just sharing a hot take about something, right? And moving on. The notion is, it's like, I really try in my thought leadership, and the people that I respond to when I'm reading theirs are the people who can name what other people might be feeling or experiencing in the moment with these,
right? They have their ear to the ground, right?
And they haven't yet articulated it.
Absolutely. They're the people who really know what's going on in the industry. It really
Yeah,
allows you to do a lot of
right,
different things when you
right. Like
focus on
anyone can
developing
share,
this.
reshape.
I think our connection is wavering a little bit. I think when you decide to focus on building a thought leadership program, number one, you're able to reach a bigger audience, right? You're able to decide who your target listeners and readers are. You're able to control your message, so you're able to show your core values, what you stand for, and you're able to highlight those
Mhm.
key issues because you have your ear to the ground. You could show people what you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's helping people feel like they're not alone in what they're experiencing as well. A big piece of that, right? And you're also attracting others who are repelling people who are aligned to you, who are misaligned in some way. Like I want to attract customers and friends, connections who are aligned with the way that I approach, let's say, leadership centric.
Hi, you're back.
Did I go?
Yeah,
I couldn't tell
just
over
briefly.
here.
So again, I think that the thought leadership content that you develop gets
Interesting.
allows people to get to know you and see how you think and how you approach different current issues that the industry is facing that maybe you didn't think about before.
Mm-hmm.
So why do you think that this could be a competitive advantage for Project Violet, for other organizations to focus on?
I think at the end of the day, like building relationships and proximity with people, like that's the science behind, when you are, it comes to thought leadership, is that if someone who's considering hiring a firm to build and they've reading my thought leadership for a year or 6 months in the running with another firm, maybe haven't had any exposure to, I'm already going to feel more familiar to them. I'm going to feel like I'm somebody they know. And to your point earlier, like level of trust with me because they know what I stand coming from. And I think it gives you like a little bit of an edge because you're not an unknown to someone when they're coming in and considering, partnering with you.
Yeah, I mean, these are the kinds of people who you follow on digital media, right? You want to know what they're thinking because they always seem to be ahead of the game. When I
Mm-hmm.
think of people I follow, I
Yeah.
think of like Adam Grant. Uh, I love how he thinks, and I love how he identifies issues that might seen below the surface, but they're actually really important about relationships and building trust. And I think he's almost always right on point. What would you suggest to people who are considering starting a thought leadership program, Carrie?
To and he's got all that psychology experience. I think that helped tremendously with that. I don't know about you, Julie, but I can't stand when people just like reshare a leadership quote that's been shared 100 times, 1,000 times, and it's like
you've
come up
seen
with
that
something
already.
new. Like you think something about something. Like share that, right? Instead of some quote that doesn't really mean anything.
I think that's a really good point. Like dig deeper. Dig deeper to really set yourself apart. Right? Oh, you're back.
Oh, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it's so annoying. Anyway, Carrie, it's been great to have you on. I love when we get to chat, almost about anything.
I agree. Thank you for having me.
This topic in particular, and everyone else, I hope that you'll reach out to Carrie on either LinkedIn or through the Project Violet website, which is on your screen, projectviolet.com. And please check back for another episode of PR Patter in the next coming weeks. And check out my website at wantleverage.com. Have a great day. And Carrie, thanks again for joining me.